Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our weekday Facebook posts, where this week we've been exploring the Buddhist personality types and also kind of how they arise, the teachings around that, which are that things arise when the conditions are supportive for them to. It's called dependent co-arising. And I'd like to explore that a little bit more today in a very specific context, and that is in the context of, in the formal practice, the mind wandering and coming back. It's very common to hear students talk about, I brought my mind back, or, I wandered away and then I brought it back, as, with language that points to like there's some ultimate control over this happening. And of course, the truth is that that is not so. When the conditions are supportive for the mind to wander away, it will. So you're meditating, it's, at least here where I live, it's summertime, the windows are open, you're sitting there practicing, the mind's present with the body or the breath, and all of a sudden you hear a bird chirp. And then a thought arises. Well, I wonder what kind of bird that was. And then it leads to another thought. Did I fill the birdseeder this morning? And on and on and on. And then all of a sudden, however long later, could be 5 seconds, could be 5 minutes. Oh, right. The body, the breath. So the mind wandering was dependent on, well, many things, but at least one thing, the fact that that bird chirped. If that bird didn't chirp at that moment, the mind would not have wandered, at least not that way in that moment. So it's when the conditions are supportive for it to, it will do it. Now, one of the conditions that's supportive for the mind to wander is past moments of wandering. There's momentum, there's habit, there's how much to go into this. It's like the seeds of wandering, you could say, are very ripe. They've been watered, they've been well nourished, and it doesn't take much for them to sprout. They're like just ready to go off. And that is true for anything that we do frequently, wholesome or unwholesome. So that's another condition for the mind to wander. And then it will go wherever it goes for however long it travels in that mind-made world, and then boom, it comes back. And we don't do that either. You don't make it come back. You don't go, oh, my mind's wandering, I think I'll make it come back. The moment you think that, you're already back. Why does the mind come back then? What are the conditions that are supportive for it to? There are two main ones. That is past moments of mindfulness, right? So just like the seeds of the wandering or the distracted mind can be watered and very, just ready to germinate and sprout. Well, the seeds of mindfulness also can be watered and, cultivated and fertilized and just ready to sprout. So past moments of mindfulness, and also the intention to be mindful. Intention is what's behind almost everything, or not almost everything we think, say, or do. There's always an intention behind it. So when we sit down to meditate, we don't sit down and go, I think I'm going to space out now. Yep, that's my intention. No, we sit down with the intention to be present, to be mindful. That intention is part of one of the conditions, along with past moments of mindfulness, that allows the wake-up moment to happen, that allows mindfulness to arise and for us to come back into the present moment. So that whole cycle, that whole process is happening ultimately outside of your control. Can we affect it? Absolutely. The less we're mindful, the more we're affecting the mind wandering. The more we're mindful, the more we're affecting the mind coming back and also staying. So yes, we have agency, but in the moment, can we keep the mind from wandering if the conditions are supportive for it too? No. And could we even keep the mind from coming back if the conditions were supportive for it too? No. I mean, even if we wanted to, we couldn't, because it's lawful, right? We have to change the rules of the universe to have that kind of control. So let's go ahead and do some practice now and start to notice the wanderings and the comings back of the mind through this lens, through the actually appropriate lens of how it actually happens. It happens based on conditions. And sometimes we can see them very clearly, like in the case with the bird. You can trace it back and go, oh, right, it was the chirping that caused the mind to wander off. Sometimes it's not so clear, but we can still hold it within this frame of we're not totally in control. And this is just kind of, the Dharma unfolding. It's nature following its nature. And when we can have that relationship to the wandering and the returning cycles of the mind, then we get less reactive. And then it's actually more pleasant, easier to meditate, and we're more likely to meditate because we're not giving ourselves a hard time by taking responsibility for this cycle. Okay, let's try that now. Settling into the body by relaxing. It's very helpful to start to experience this intimate connection between relaxing the body and feeling the body. It's like we get to feeling the body through relaxing the body. And it's by relaxing the body that we can kind of start to notice where there's holding and be able to let go. In fact, one could see relaxing the body and feeling the body as two different sides of the same coin. Can you get a sense of that, of how close they are? Feeling the body first at the touch points where it's touching something, just to start to feel, and then letting the attention soften and open and feeling the whole body. Apprehending the body as a field of tiny changing sensations rather than this dense, solid object with discrete edges. Feeling the breath within that field of changing sensations so that our meditation object becomes the breath body. It's one thing. And so we cultivate the intention to stay connected to the breath body, and then notice there'll be wake-up moments when we realize, oh, the mind it's wandered away and now it's come back. And just see if you can feel into, at that moment, the impersonal nature of that, how you actually didn't do it. So let's practice a bit in this way together now. Start to disentangle yourself from this cycle of the mind wandering and returning. Start to disidentify with it and think that it's you. And simply become the observer. So we started the week simply with the Buddhist personality types, and then started to explore, kind of the mechanics, you might say, of how they arise, how greed, hatred, and delusion arises in our mind, and why it does, and that it happens lawfully. And then today, looking at one of the places where we can see the kind of mechanics of the kind of impersonal nature of things, just following its nature. There's this moment when we wake up from being lost in thought and looking and seeing, oh, yeah, that kind of just happened. I didn't do it. And this is an important corner to kind of turn in our meditation practice, to start to disidentify from this wandering mind and coming back and starting to just watch it. And even that in itself, that corner that I just said to turn, that in itself will arise when the conditions are supportive for it too. And that's why I gave you these instructions. I think they are a helpful condition to help support this disidentification, this looking, right when we wake up from being lost in thought, and seeing right there experientially, not by me telling you, but in your own experience. Yeah, right, that kind of just happened. And letting go of the thought or the belief that it should have been different. How much suffering happens because we think it should have been different. I really hope that you can let go of that one as soon as possible. Okay, that's it for this week. We'll see you next week, and I wish you well today. And I wish you great tenderness and kindness with yourself as you walk this Dharma path. We need it. It's whatever happens is okay. Just keep paying attention and be kind towards yourself, and all will be well. Okay, bye-bye.